Thank you. Hello, hello. All right, no sharks here. I'm glad there's been a lot of sharks around, so I'm glad that you're not here to eat me. So hi, I'm Jonathan Desrosiers. This is my Twitter, and I just posted my slides, so if you want to follow along, feel free to hop on Twitter and grab the link. So today I'm going to be talking to you about picking the perfect plugin. So first, who am I? I'm a WordPress developer at Bluehost. I'm fortunate enough where 80% of my time I can contribute to WordPress itself. So WordPress Core is where I spend most of my time, but anything for the WordPress project, such as organizing WordCamps and stuff like that, I'm able to contribute my time at work too. I'm a core contributor. I am a co-maintainer of the media and the privacy components. I was the 4.9.6 release co-lead, and I have over 10 years WordPress experience. See, I was trying to figure that out before, how long it's been. It's been quite a while. I remember learning it in college. And on the weekends, I like to mash the baseball. So let's get right into it. What is a plugin? Who here, let's get a show of hands. Who's a designer in the crowd? Okay, a couple designers. Who's a developer? Okay, and who is somewhat familiar with WordPress? They've used it, they're comfortable. Okay, so almost everybody. So a plugin extends or modifies default functionality of WordPress. So in WordPress, there are these things called hooks, and those hooks are placed all throughout WordPress Core, and they allow these plugins to change things, add things, modify the user experience, add to the user experience, and they can do all kinds of things. So they can be very simple. They can do things like put a link at the bottom that says copyright and the date. Or it can be something more complex like a photo gallery plugin or spam protection. So this right here, this is, if you haven't seen this yet, this is the WordPress.org plugin directory. And anybody can be listed here as long as they follow the proper license, software license. You can apply and host your code here, and anyone in WordPress will be able to see it. So you can go to WordPress.org and see these, or you can go right in WordPress, you can go to plugins and add new, and that's actually searching the plugin directory, so they're the same thing. So today, a lot of my examples are going to have this. So BuddyPress is it's a popular social network plugin that allows you to set up messaging between users, groups, and different aspects of social media that you might want to have within your site on WordPress. But I'm just going to use this because it's a good example. It's a well-known plugin. It's been around for a long time. So you'll see this a lot. And most of the things that we're going to talk about are going to be related to BuddyPress. So let's talk about the perfect plugin. So I want everybody to sit there, spend a couple minutes, think about your perfect plugin. Maybe you're dealing with a problem right now, and I wish I could find something that does that. But it doesn't exist. So sorry. There's no perfect plugin out there unless you build it and it does exactly what you want, and nothing changes and everything remains the same, and that's not going to happen. So I'm sorry. But we're going to have a little fun, and I'm going to, the top 10 is in. Everybody here is old enough. I was thinking about that. We're going to have any younger people where we're getting to a point where we have to think if people are going to know who David Letterman is. So the top 10 is in. We're going to go over top 10 ways to evaluate a WordPress plugin for effectiveness and quality. They're in no order. I kind of grouped them in an order that makes sense, so we weren't bouncing to a bunch of different places, except the last one. The last one is the most important. So the top 10 ways to evaluate a WordPress plugin. Number 10, the plugin reviews. So I showed you the WordPress directory. So if you scroll down, there's all this useful information here on the page. There's a description of the plugin. There's some statistics, and we're going to get into a little bit more detail here. But this one focuses right here on the ratings. So anyone that has a WordPress.org user account can go on and leave plugin ratings. They can give it a star 1 to 5, and a star rating 1 to 5, and they can also comment about their rating and why they gave it that rating. So this is important to look at because it shows the quality of the plugin from the people using it or the people that have tried it out. So we can see BuddyPress, they don't have too many reviews. They have about 300 reviews. They have great, they have 5s. They have a little bit of a spread. And Keep in mind that sometimes people don't really give it a fair shake, and they come here and they're like, oh, this thing stinks. So for example, this one says surge of spam users. And they went on and they just said, I'm getting a lot of spam users now. And that was all they really said. So we don't really know what's going on. So just like when you're on Amazon, you're buying a new pair of shoes, or you're buying a new computer desk, you want to take things with a grain of salt. And none of these factors I'm going to go over are the factor. You always have to take them, consider who's leaving it, and look at other factors. And it's always going to be a combination of the factors. And the combination, the way that they're weighted, is always going to be different for everybody. So these are just things that you can look at. I looked at some other ones, and some of the reviews are just, it broke my site. But that's all that they say. So you don't know, like, did their host go down, did this? You have no idea what's going on their site, and they don't really give you a full story. So there's always, take these with a grain of salt. So number 9 is the compatible WordPress versions. So another great thing on this page is all these different numbers, and they all mean something. But for this one, we want to look at the requires version and the tested up to version. So the plugin developer can specify these things. So when they write the plugin, if there's a new feature in WordPress that it uses, it will say what the minimum version of WordPress is that you need to have. So everybody should run the most recent version of WordPress. But there are situations where maybe you get a client site and they have 100 plugins, and good luck, but you're working through it and you can't upgrade quite yet because you're not really sure what's going on the site and in the entirety of it. So this here will tell you, okay, if I want to install this plugin and replace other plugins before I upgrade, this is the minimum version I need to be running. And then the tested up to tells you what the most recent version of WordPress is that you can use it with. Most of the time, this doesn't always get updated. Sometimes it's missed. The better plugins will always have that up to date as far as what it's tested up to. But it doesn't necessarily mean it will break. So this one is more, the top one is more, it won't run if you run it on a version lower than that. But the bottom one is more, hey, we've spent time testing it on this version. Most of the time you can use it on higher versions and it doesn't really, it still works and it does everything it's supposed to. But there are the chances where something gets removed from WordPress or a behavior gets changed behind the scenes. And that's where you might run into an issue. But with that, you would see it in the support, in the reviews, right? So again, it's just a combination of things. And we zoom in here, we check that out. Number 8, the last updated date. So when you apply, you basically submit your plugin and the plugin reviewers approve it. You're given a Subversion repository, a way to commit your code where the WordPress.org directory can share it and distribute it. And so that, oh, my date is off my thing, but it's right here, right above the red box. And that tells you the last time that the plugin was updated, the code was actually updated in the Subversion repository. So this is a gauge of how active is the developer or the developers of the plugin. Are they updating it? Are they adding things? Are they maintaining it? So this is a good way to gauge that and see what's really going on with the build of the plugin. Number 7, the number of active installs. So again, on top of my red box, it tells you the number of active installs. So usually anything over 5 or 10,000 is a great user base for a plugin. Some plugins have over 5 million, 6 million. Some have 10. I think my highest used plugin has around 10,000 active installs. But this gives you a gauge of how much is it being used out in the wild and what's going on with it. And that's a good thing to pay attention to, because if more people are using it, they're finding the bugs. The more people that use it on the different types of environments with different variables, it's most likely a well-tested piece of software. So that's always something you want to see. Doesn't mean that if it's only got 10 installs, it's not worth it. Maybe it's new. Gutenberg just got up to 100,000 installs, but it was hovering in like 5 to 50,000 for a very long time. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't install it and try it out and see how it works. It just means that it's new getting adopted. Or it might just be something that not everybody needs. Maybe it's just a very niche. Like look at BuddyPress. It only had 200,000 installs. There's millions and millions of WordPress sites out there. Not everybody needs those features. So it could just be a measure of that as well. Number 6, the number of resolved support forum posts. So we're going to switch and we're going to look at Yoast because you'll see why in a little bit. But BuddyPress, it's a little bit different. This is the way support works. So let's look at the last factors here. It was updated 2 days ago. It has 5 million plus active installs. It requires a very new version of WordPress, and it's tested up to the most recent release. This is a little bit new. It tells you what version of PHP it requires, so you can make sure that your server environment will actually work. It will work on your server environment. But when we scroll down, below your ratings, we'll have support, and it will tell you how many, in the last 2 months, how many support requests there have been and how many are resolved. So normally you want to see this up pretty high over here. But again, maybe they have a bunch of issues that were open that they're actually still working through over the course of those 2 months. So maybe that's not a absolute guide to look at. And if you click that, you can actually come through and just like reviews, you can look through them and see, are people being reasonable? Are these actual valid complaints and valid support requests? And who's responding? Is their team responding? Are there people in the community responding and helping out? Some of the good plugins will have people that just use the plugin a lot. A lot of times they like the plugin, and they'll actually go in here and spend time and help out other users. So that's another thing to look at. Number 5, the contributors. So back to BuddyPress, when you scroll to the bottom of the plugin's homepage, there will be a list of people that are either developers or contributors to that plugin. So BuddyPress is a very mature plugin. It's been around for a long, long time, I think as long as I've used WordPress. And there's a lot of people that are able to commit and change, make changes to BuddyPress. So all these people have done stuff with BuddyPress through the years, and they're all actively contributing to it. So this is a great sign of the health of the plugin, the ecosystem of the plugin, how many people care about the plugin, how many people put their time and effort into the plugin. So always look at this. And again, if there's one person that's not a negative, maybe they just built it really quick. Maybe it's a really simple plugin and they just don't need other contributors. Some plugins might be 10 lines of code. So that's another thing to consider as well. Number 4, the next step when you look at contributors is any WordPress contributions that they have. Do they buy into the WordPress mentality of open source and helping people and helping the project grow as an open source project? So when you click on any of those people, it will take them to their WordPress.org profile. And at the bottom, it's going to list all these badges. And these badges are badges, you can only receive these if you do specific things in the system. So if you receive props for a change in WordPress Core, that maybe you fixed a bug or you added a feature, you'll get this badge. But you can only get it if the meta team gives you this badge or the system picks up that you actually were credited with a change. Same thing with the meta team. You have to be on the meta team. You have to speak at a WordCamp to get this one. You have to have a WordPress plugin to have that one, and so on. This is what's that? Yeah, it's just like the Boy Scouts. You're getting your badges and collecting them and doing different things. I think that there's about 15 to 20 different badges you can get. But again, this is a great sign of does this person care about WordPress? Do they contribute their time to helping it grow and making sure that the project sticks around as a free piece of software? And scroll further down to that, you can actually see a breakdown of what they're doing. So we can see here that John Jacoby, he used to live in Rhode Island. He's a great guy. He does a lot of work on BuddyPress, but right here he actually committed a change to he committed a change to BBPress right here. And right here he had a support form that he responded to, a post in the plugin support, another one. He closed the ticket. He made a change. He closed another ticket. And this is all over the course of a month. and it goes all the way to 2 months down here. So you can really scroll down here and you can see what is this person up to? Like, what are they doing in WordPress and in the WordPress.org environment? And it gives you, again, it gives you a feel for, do these people care? And do these people spend their time helping WordPress be the best that it can be? Number 3, we're going to hop out of the WordPress.org area a little bit. If it has a GitHub repository. So GitHub is really the social area for code. If you're not familiar, it's basically the same as the .org directory where you can host your code in a repository. And it tracks changes and it knows who makes those changes and when they're made. And people can work on the same files at the same time. And it helps track those different changes. But it basically will give you the same idea. So you can see each file in each folder and when it's changed. So a lot of times, if there's a GitHub repository, it means a bunch of things. But this will most likely be updated much more often than the directory is. This is where active development will happen on the plugin. So the directory won't receive an update most of the time until it's ready to go. It's ready for a new version. But this is where you would see, so like a day ago, 2 days ago, and this is Yoast. We went to Yoast's SEO, WordPress SEO GitHub page. You can see that they've been going at it and changing things this week, and they're making updates. So again, that's a good sign there. They're iterating on their software. They're adding things. They're fixing bugs. They're making sure that it's usable and up to the latest standards. The other thing is supposed to be around the Issues tab. So people can report issues. So if they notice bugs, this is another place where they can report the bugs. And usually this is more software focused, whereas the .org area might be more user-based, like users are having issues. I can't, this is broken, it broke my site. This will be more, hey, this CSS class is wrong and it's styled wrong. And people that are, might know a little bit more than the end user. And they know they have a GitHub account, which means they're more of a developer or designer. Designers have GitHubs as well. And then the other really important aspect is the pull requests. So pull requests is a way to make a code suggestion that the owners of the repository can look at and approve or ask for updates before they approve it. So this is a good gauge of are other people in the community contributing back to the plugin. So, you know, Yoast has a bunch of employees, but if other people use it and there's something broken, I think I've submitted a pull request before to Yoast, and it's just basically as many people contributing to it as possible is a good thing. And so looking at a couple of these usernames, I recognize a few of them, and they're not Yoast people. They're just community members that you know, use the plugin and they've noticed things can be updated or be better. And so that's a great sign that the company works with other people. They take ideas and suggestions, and they do what's best for their users in the software. Bonus, if they have an organization page for their company. So Yoast has 58 repositories. So this is great because they open source a lot of their plugins and their codes. So people can learn from it. People can use it for other things. They can repurpose it. They can do whatever they want with it. And their most popular one is their plugin, WordPress SEO. But they also have a bunch of other things going on. They have a lot of React components. Yoast actually has, I believe, a Joomla and a Drupal plugin now, which basically their content evaluation JavaScript is in a different repository. So that's separate, and then people have used it for other platforms than WordPress. But they started with WordPress. So this is a good thing because it gives you an idea of everything that the company has going on, and they're active here. They're maintaining this stuff. You can see these graphs. You can see what's going on. They're spending time on it. And you can also see their organization. So the organization will have people involved in it. So these are all the people that belong to the Yoast organization on GitHub, and they all have the power to accept changes or make changes. And again, that helps. You can see a couple of the newer ones are missing their cartoons, but BuddyPress is a little different. So BuddyPress is it's a supported, a plugin supported by WordPress.org. So BuddyPress is great, and I said I was going to get to this before. It's great because it also has a GitHub page, and it has same thing. It has some people in the organization, but you don't actually make changes to BuddyPress on GitHub. So you can see when you go to GitHub, this is just called the mirror. So basically, they make changes in SVN on the WordPress.org directory, and then it syncs over here so that people can use it, and they can check it out, and they can put it on their site from Git if they wanted to. But none of the actual work happens here. It happens in this other ticket tracking system that is a part of WordPress.org. So that was why I switched away from using BuddyPress for a little while, because it's a little bit different. It's an outlier. The support is actually on a different WordPress install than .org. So there's a little bit of a few differences in that and some of the other plugins. Number 2, unit tests. Who knows what a unit test is? Okay, we got one. So a unit test is if I have a code, and it's a function, and it says, if you give me blue, I'm going to give you green. A unit test would say, hey, I'm going to give you blue, you better give me green. And if it doesn't, it will fail. So unit tests are usually in your plugin, and we can see here. So this plugin, BuddyPress, has unit tests. So they're basically a quality assurance piece of the software. So these will run every time a change is made, and it will validate that everything's still working the way it's supposed to, at least the parts that have tests. So that's a bonus. If they have unit tests, that's good. That means they have quality control elements in their plugin. They're monitoring what's going on. They're aware of their changes and what's breaking, what their changes are breaking and affecting. And number 1, a little drum roll, is does it do what you need it to do, how you need it to do it? So it all comes down to, does it fit your project? Like I said, all those things are good to look at, but there's no perfect formula. There's no perfect plugin. It's all what you need. So maybe the number of active installs is not important to you. Maybe it's just that they answer their support tickets because you need some help getting set up. And it's on GitHub. And so everybody's going to have their own formula that they're comfortable with. These are just some things that you can use to help validate that the plugin is a good plugin, that it might do what you need, that someone's going to be there to help you if you have any issues. Does it? I got a duplicate slide, but thank you. Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions?
The unit test, that was on GitHub, right?
So unit tests can be anywhere, but if it's hosted on GitHub, let me show my thing up. If it's on GitHub, usually the way you can tell is there'll be a tests folder, and they'll usually reside in there. But it could be when it's on WordPress.org in the Subversion repo. It could be in there too, but there's not going to be any automation on that repository. With GitHub, it's great because it can integrate with services and the pull requests we talked about. Sometimes you can't actually merge a change unless it passes certain tests. So that's just one way to look at it. But when you download their development version, you'll see that in there. A lot of times they'll strip stuff like that out too before they publish it to the .org so that you're only getting what you need in your install. Yes?
How do you know certain plugins will conflict with others? Like
Good question.
Thanks. I went on Facebook WordPress and it said now there are free stock image libraries and here's how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have the same views, so they said, oh, you'll have to get Jetpack. And then I said, well, is that because I saw there was SEO in there and I already have Yoast. I said, is that going to conflict? And I never heard back.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm afraid to touch it, but I do want the free stock images. How do you know?
Yeah, so a good way to test that, some hosts have like an easy staging environment. So a lot of the hosts now will have this button you can click, and it will copy your site over to this development instance, and you can make changes to it, and it doesn't affect your actual site, right? So that's a great way to kind of just play around with it in your site, in your actual site, and see what happens and try it out. Another good way to tell that is we talked about if they're active and they contribute to WordPress. So it's not guaranteed, but a lot of the people that do contribute to the project, they are mindful of this. They follow the best practices out there for WordPress, and they'll make sure that one of the good things you can do as a plugin developer is to make sure your plugin won't adversely affect another plugin. One factor that will especially play into that is the number of active installs. The more active installs you have, the more likely that you're going to have users that have different combinations of plugins. So maybe that's a more important factor for you, is seeing that. And also in the support forums, you could look in both support forums and search for the plugin name for the other plugin name, and see if anybody's having a problem. Usually a common way to help a user debug a problem they're having is to ask them what plugins they're using. And so in the support forums, a lot of times they'll put a list of all the plugins they're using. And so that's helpful to search the forum, and you can see, oh, in the BuddyPress they have a Yoast question, and someone's using it and they're having an issue. That's what I'm having. So yeah, so again, it's just about finding the right combination of factors that will help you identify those issues. Yeah. Yeah.
So WordPress community, people love free.
Mm-hmm.
When is it worth using a premium plugin? How do people weigh those decisions?
Yeah, so a premium plugin that I use on my sites is Gravity Forms, and I will pay the money for Gravity Forms every single year because I've used it and it's great and I love it. So a lot of times the plugins will do like a 30-day thing, not all of them. But that one, it's heavily on reviews, so you might weigh your reviews more heavily when you're thinking about buying one. Stick with reputable plugin directories that sell plugins, just so you don't have these. You don't want to go buy a plugin and it gets abandoned and nobody's there to support you, and it gets hacked and then they're not there to patch it and you have a security issue. So I just say. Your reviews will probably be an important factor for you. And yeah, see if they'll reach out, see if they'll give you a trial. You can try it out.
What I find with free things, there are a lot of limits. So if the pro version or whatever has more, that's when you pay for it.
Well, people usually pay with their time. Things are free.
So Yoast has a premium version, but they also have a paid version. I'm sorry, they have a paid premium version and they also have a free version. But they're kind of the mindset of, well, the plugin does what it does, but then we're going to go the extra mile for you if you go premium. Part of their pay structure, I think, is you get a free year of premium support, which is like an extra level. You have a specific form you can submit to, and there's more people there to answer you. And so those are the other benefits as well. So maybe paying for it and having the security of there's someone there to respond to you within a day or 24 hours or 12 hours, whatever it is. Maybe that's another factor that you use for that. But yes.
Security plugins.
Mm-hmm.
WordFence versus Unthemes is two that I use.
Okay. Do you use them both on the same site or on different sites?
Originally, I always used WordFence.
Mm-hmm.
The hosting company shut down a site and discovered that it was evidently scanning the WordFence, and it overloaded because it was going through every single thing.
So just use too many resources on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's a factor of, I don't have one personally I recommend. We use a lot of SiteLock on our sites. And again, it's all what works for you. So maybe you have a smaller budget on the site and you can't have the plugin crawling all the time. You can look. Maybe in the forum someone else is having the similar issue, and they have some people that have suggested different changes you can make or settings you can turn off. That.
What do you think of iThemes?
I've honestly never used iThemes.
I mean, iThemes.
Yeah, I haven't used them. I used to use WordFence a while ago, but then I didn't have a need for it anymore, so I haven't used any security plugin in a little while.
Had I used both, not on the same site, like depending on the need.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm tending more towards iThemes because so far it hasn't, and you get reports and everything.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't mention on here too that's a great way is to come to meetups, because Like you have a question and she used iThemes and I use WordFence and I like it. And sometimes just talking to other people in person is another good way to, I don't believe her. I don't know if she really liked it or if she's using it the same way that I am, you know. Those types of things might be easier to tell when you talk to someone. I'm not saying don't believe her. I believe her, but.
Well, really they say, use 2 security plugins to be sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sometimes it's going to come down to just having a good host. So a lot of the good hosts will take care of a lot of the security aspects for you. And then you might not need to run 2 just because the overlap would be from your hosting provider or the infrastructure that they have.
What about security?
Security, I've never used security. Yeah, I haven't had a huge need for security plugins on my personal sites. I'm going to go home and my site's going to be hacked. So don't do it.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, running 2 there's probably a lot of overlap in them, and that's probably why it's probably why you're getting limited on resources.
Oh, no, I don't use 2.
Okay.
I know of others, I had belonged to a group years ago, and they were using 2. They were using security.
It won't hurt. I mean, as long as they don't conflict with each other, like we talked about, as long as they develop their plugin in a self-contained manner, then it won't be a big issue.
What about the hosting companies? Do they have a preference for one or the other?
Some might. Like I said, all of our sites come with SiteLock, and it's tried and tested and true for us, and we like that one, and that's what we recommend. We don't stop you from if you want something else, but that's what we recommend to our customers.
I have sites on Bluehost, so.
Okay. Yeah, you probably have SiteLock on there.
Yeah, I do have one with SiteLock. It's a 300-pager.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, try them out and see. Again, you might find that on one site it works well, and on the other one, maybe it gets attacked by different things. Maybe you have a medical site, and maybe you have a Red Sox fan site, and they get different people trying to exploit them with different things. So it might work differently for different ones.
Yankees fans don't know that.
Yeah, the Yankee fans can't hack the sites. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
What would you recommend for people who have a plugin that does 95% of what they want, but they need to change something?
Yeah.
How would you recommend they change it or go about it?
Yeah, so if you have one thing that you need changed, if you're a developer, come on over to GitHub and make that suggestion in either an issue, or you can submit a pull request. You can do the work for them. So maybe you need one setting that changes something. That's a great way to get it in, is to do it. And then say, here it is. Argue for it, give your reasoning why and why it's beneficial and how you did it. And then they'll probably just go, "Boop, thank you. That's a great idea." More often than you would think they do. If
You get listed as a contributor to it.
Yep. If you go up here to the contributor tab, this lists everybody that's ever contributed to it. So that will. This is off because it's a special use case. Let's go back to our other one here. See how many users. So Yoast has had, the WordPress SEO has had 178 contributors submit code through GitHub to their repository. So that's a lot. Yoast has, I think they had 20 people in their organization that could make changes. So that shows you how much it's grown over the years, how many people have cared about it enough to submit back to it. And if you're not a developer, a support request, or sometimes they'll have a feature request form on their website where you can say, hey, I need this, sometimes just getting on a chat with someone saying, can it do this? Maybe you're missing it. So those are all good options of paths to take to try to influence the software to the way you need it to go. That's a great part about WordPress is that a lot of the people that are active in the community and have contributions to WordPress, they have an open mind and they're always willing to listen to ideas. And I know I keep going to Yoast, but I know that if they can't do it for you, they might tell you how you can do it. Like they're more, if it doesn't do what you need, they're more than happy to point you in the right direction. And a lot of the better plugins and WordPress companies are like that, which is great about our ecosystem. Anybody else? No? You guys all want to go home and swim before it gets too dark?
Yeah. Well, I have one other test that I use on every plugin.
Mhm.
And does it survive the 60-second, I don't want to have to think it all, install,
Mhm.
and start working.
Yep.
And boy, let me tell you, I saved myself a lot of trouble.
Mhm.
And most of them do. That is the amazing thing. You put it in, tell it your name or whatever it wants,
Mhm.
and bingo, you now own the world.
Yeah, and that's another good thing about the developers and the companies that contribute to WordPress. One of the core philosophies of WordPress is decisions, not options. So when something gets into WordPress, the idea is that it's just going to work for the majority of people. You're not going to have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You might have to make one or two decisions, but it should just work for you, and it should just feel natural. So when the people are in that same mentality because they contribute to WordPress, that's another great sign too. So that's something you might weigh heavier in your selection process.
Right, right. It's, the one time I was trying to get a plugin that would get rid of the thing on top there,
Yep.
that it was insecure,
Mhm.
really simple SSL or something, and I tried 3 of them, and they all said it would do it, and one of them did it.
Mhm.
I said, well, there you go. That's the one I want.
Yeah.
And it was free, and I said, wow, thanks. It really helped me out.
Yeah. One thing, if I can give you guys homework, we'll go all the way back to the beginning. But if you use a plugin and it works for you, take a little bit of time and leave a review. A lot of times, I like to think that the people that have bad experiences are more likely to come. I don't know if this is true or not, but I find that the people that really have a bad time with something or it negatively affects them, they're more likely to leave a review. But if you have a positive review, just go leave a review. Spend 5 minutes doing it. And it really does help the environment. It helps everybody. It helps people like you make decisions on which one to go to. And, you might say, oh, I have, my kid's PTO or PTA organization. We use this plugin, and it helps us do X, Y, and Z. And it's great, and it works, and they update it frequently. And someone might be in the same shoes, and they might, be looking for something for their PTA site, and it works. And I relate to that person. I'm going to use that plugin. So you never know what will resonate with other people and what will help other people make their decisions. So it's a great way to give back, especially if you're not a developer or a designer or another technical.
It's an excellent idea. Yeah.
A different subject. What's your favorite migration plugin for migrating from your system to the internet that
That's a good question. Yeah, go ahead. What's yours?
I've become a huge fan of WP All-in-One Migration.
WP All-in-One Migration. Okay.
There is no other
I
as far
found
as
it a
I'm
few months back,
concerned.
and I've migrated a dozen sites so far, and it's minutes.
Yeah.
And I love
Name
because
of it again?
WP All-in-One Migration.
Goodness. God.
Yeah, you click on that part, and what I like is you can change the domain names. Like I have a staging site, like I'll do whatever the client's name is, abccompany.dev.com. Click export, and you can tell it to change anything in the site that is abccompany.dev.com to abccompany.com or whatever their URL is, and it changes the whole everything for you. It's so easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do a lot with the command line, the WP CLI, which is you SSH into the machine and you can run commands. And it does a lot of those migration things, and that's typically what I use. But I'm definitely not the majority there. The WP All-in-One migration.
Next meetup talks.
Yeah.
It just works.
Yeah.
And boy,
Good. You have 2 plugins you can go leave reviews on. That's your homework.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
2
that's
plugins.
right, if I haven't already, Yeah.
Jonathan, you're coming back next month to do that.
Sure. I'll be here. I'm going to come as many times as I can and help you guys. I know it's tough at the beginning when the meetup's starting, so if everybody, your other homework, bring one other person next month. Just everybody bring someone. And
Are you on, Kate?
What's that?
Are you on, Kate?
I'm in New Bedford, And I co-organize the Boston WordPress meetup. And so Bluehost is based in Utah, so my team is all remote. So there's 6 people on my team. But I used to work at BU, and I drove there 3 days a week. And yeah, you're following me around. That's okay. You can follow me. I help organize the Boston meetup, and I'm a co-organizer for the WordCamp up there. So I know the pains of getting people to come out, and so the free pizza helps. You'll get people that will come all the time for the pizza. They like the pizza. Oh yeah, if anybody wants sunglasses, I have some sunglasses you can come grab. I have more, so don't worry. We always have extras, so you're always welcome. I drove here and I forgot my sunglasses, and then I got here, I realized I had a whole box of them.
Thanks, Jonathan.
You're welcome. Thank you.